go ahead and take out the cheek pads on both sides and the headliner as well. Now, don't worry if your helmet doesn't allow you to take out the headliner or the cheek pads. Not a big deal. It's not totally essential. It does just make things a little bit easier when you're going to throw one of these in. Once you've got everything out, go ahead and grab the two circular Velcro adhesives. And what we're going to do is stick those in right over the ear area inside the helmet itself. So you can see this kind of big open exposed area. As a tip for yourself, when you pull the cheek pad out, most, to a degree, all cheek pads have somewhat of a V shape. You want to try to start closer to the bottom of the V. That's for the most part the general area where your ear is. When you get too high up, that's where it starts pushing on your cartilage and where the pain starts to come in. Just keep that in mind. Sometimes when you pull these cheek pads out, you'll find that there's a little recession from the helmet manufacturer as a place to put the speaker. That's always a good place to start. You can start there, but don't be married to that spot. It may not be exactly where your ear is. So let me stick this Velcro in and I'll show you where we're at after that. So I've got Velcro on one side put in. I put the cheek pad back in and I've got the Velcro sitting right behind this little swath of cloth right here. So it's right there. I feel good about the placement. I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. So we're getting the other Velcro stuck on. Now this is a new helmet. If you're putting this onto a helmet that you've already using or you've already worn it, which is very likely, I would use the alcohol swipe that comes with this. Just kind of clean that area where you're going to put the adhesive first, then stick the adhesive on, and helps it sit quite a bit better. Next is your speakers. So when you open it up, you'll notice that one of them is short and the other one goes to a long wire. The short wire, that's your left ear. So that's going to be stuck on the left side. Let me go ahead and take this out. So I'll place this short one over the left ear. At this point, just going kind of general, right? I don't know exactly where my ear is when I throw the helmet on, but I know I'm going to be close. So I'll throw that over there. The right side, just go ahead and go up and, over the top of the helmet. If you can't, again, if the liner doesn't come out, just go around the back. Keep in mind, though, this longer wire does double as your FM radio. So it helps with the reception of the FM radio. If your unit has FM, most of them do. Just keep that in mind when you route the wire. Kind of treat it, route it with antenna in mind, and that'll help you out. All right, so once you've reached this point, you are done with the right side of the helmet. So it's totally safe to put the cheek pad back in. That's what I would do, just to kind of start cleaning up a little bit on this side. You can also go ahead and put the headliner back in. You are done there as well. Okay, so next step is going to be looking at the microphone, which will go in right along here on the left side behind the cheek pad. But before we go there, just two more things on the speakers. Speaker placement is super important for it to be loud and sound good. So chances are you probably won't get it right the first time you put it in. Not many people do, but it's Velcro. So feel at liberty to move that thing around so that when you put the helmet on, it's sitting right over your ears, full volume, no pain. That's the way it should be. Other thing I wanted to mention was the speaker booster pads. On this helmet, it's not very deep. I didn't have to use these. But if you need to bring those speakers just a little bit closer to your ears, use these pads. They work magic. They don't look like much, but they move the speaker just enough to get the job done. So at this point, we're moving on to the microphone. This is a 3/4 helmet, open face. So we're definitely going to have to use the hybrid boom microphone. The wired mic would not work in this case. And we're looking at this is the left side of the helmet behind the cheek pad. Before I put any Velcro down, I'm just going to kind of place this to get an idea of where I'm going to put the Velcro and make sure that I have this microphone, far enough forward so that it reaches all the way in front of the mouth. So you want to make sure, just kind of do a test run. Just by looking at this, holding this there, I now know that I'm going to put a Velcro right about in this area, and then we need to use that secondary clip, so something right about there in the front as well, and that will hold our microphone in place. So let me get the Velcro. The Velcro was a little too thick to get through these two button snaps without me cutting it. Obviously, you can just cut it and get up there forward. I feel totally fine about where that's at. Okay, so first we'll put this piece in. And second, always make sure you use this little clip. It's what keeps the microphone, the boom mic, from flopping around. Perfect. And we are in good shape. Now, if you're installing on a full face helmet, you have a different microphone option. Keep in mind, everything we've talked about to this point is identical when it comes to the speakers and all that stuff. Everything's the same as what we just talked about, but you have an additional microphone option. You can use the wired mic instead of the boom. Installing the mic on a full face is even easier than an open face or 3/4 because you're just putting one of the rectangular Velcros right here in front where you think the mouth is. Get nice and straight. If you have a large vent right here, there's no problem putting the microphone here or here. You just kind of want it in line with the mouth. In this case, it's probably a little bit lower. Like we said a minute ago, we would put the helmet on, test it out, make sure that when I put the helmet on, it's right over my mouth. We would hide all these wires and move on to the next step. One thing to note, if this was a modular helmet in which the front part kind of lifted up and shut again, you would not use the wired mic like we did here. You would use the boom mic like in our open face. So let's go back to the open face and finish up. Okay, so we have the boom mic mounted onto the helmet. One last thing to mention about the boom microphone, at the very front of it, you'll notice kind of a yellow triangle. It's super important that that is facing the direction of your mouth. That's the input for the microphone. So always make sure when you're installing it and when you're using it that the little triangle is facing the direction of your mouth. And with that, we now move to the left side of the helmet to install the clamp. Now the clamp comes with the spring tension mount attached to it already. You also have your adhesive clamp as a backup. The way to tell which one you're going to use, look at the bottom of your helmet. How thick is that, right? And in this case, it's actually really thick, and it's hard plastic. I can't move that. Sometimes you see rubber right there, no problem. You can push right through it. In fact, right here you've got rubber. You'd be able to, push that clamp up and go there. But you want to put the mount kind of dead center on the left side. That's the best way to touch it. It's the best. It looks the best. So in dead center on the left side, that's hard plastic, which means I'm not going to use the spring mount. I'll show you the tolerance on that. It's just too thin to get over top of that. So no big deal. We are going to use the adhesive plate, and that's why it's there. So we're looking, again, just like we did with the microphone, kind of eyeball where you're going to put it, where you think it's going to fit nice. And in the case of using the adhesive plate, always do use the alcohol swab for sure. New helmet, old helmet, doesn't matter. You want this thing to stick on really good. I'll wait for that to dry. Okay, let's go ahead and take this off and stick it on there. Give it a nice good push, press it nice and hard. Now to remove this piece from the back of the clamp, you'll have these two little indents right here, right? Press those down and push it until it releases from the bottom. Now you can save this for another day. This is the piece that matters. We'll now take that piece and slide it over the adhesive mount. Just channel it, slide it all the way down. Most importantly, make sure you get those 2 clicks. So back to the inside of the helmet. At this point, all we need to do is connect our wires. The 3.5 female from the base, we're going to plug into our speakers. Make sure you plug that all the way in. It'll snap when you do. And then this proprietary port, plug into your microphone. Obviously the same for the boom or wired. And from here, it just becomes wire management. So there's always a place to put it. A safe haven often is up in the headliner. Really, it just comes to the joints. You don't want to feel those, obviously, so you can tuck those up maybe underneath the rim right there. That's perfect. The rest of these wires can go inside like such, putting a little bit of slack right here so that when I put the cheek pad back on, it's not going to put too much tension on this area. Let's get the cheek pad back on. Back to our full face for a minute. This rim is plenty thin, no big deal, and most helmets are like that. Most helmets you're going to use the clamp. So let's just do that real quick and show you this is just a pressure deal. Get it in there. Sometimes it takes more pressure than others. That one's not bad. Push it all the way until it's nice and flush. And then these wires, we're gonna put not around the outside of the cheek pad because that just looks ugly. If you can, take the cheek pad out. You know, we're gonna put them in like that. And for the best part, just grab your unit, put it in rear first, the back first, then take the front area, make sure you get that nice click, and you're done.